So now the first couple days of Packers training camp are officially in the books. And I think as training camp goes by, we start to see some consistent themes shared by lots of different Packers reporters just about certain players who are standing out and playing consistent football at training camp. And after the first couple days, there is one guy who's really shown up a ton. He seems to be catching the eye of lots of different Packers reporters. And that is new Packer player Isaiah Simmons, who was brought in this offseason from the Giants on a one-year, $1.3 million contract. We all know he was a top 10 pick previously, about 5 years ago. And unfortunately, things just did not go, I guess, what you would expect for a top 10 caliber pick. He has not necessarily played at that caliber during his time in the NFL so far. He played some good football from time to time. It just hasn't been super consistent, which is why he came to Green Bay on such a cheap deal. And I think for the Packers, they clearly saw some kind of upside there. And when you're only paying him $1.3 million, you aren't taking too much of a risk if you're the Packers. And so I want to take a look here at a few different reporters and what they've said about Isaiah Simmons, as well as a quote from Matt LaFleur and Josh Jacobs. First off, from Bill Huber of Sports Illustrated, who says, through 2 days of Green Bay Packers training camp, linebacker Isaiah Simmons has been one of the most impactful players on the practice field. And then here we have from Matt LaFleur, who said this in a press conference in the past day or so. You see him, there's a reason he was a top 10 pick. He has all the measurables. And if you look back to his, during his combine, back before he was drafted, he had one of the highest RASs, relative athletic scores, all time among linebackers. He had a 9.97 RAS, which is out of 10, and that ranked 7th out of 2,073 linebackers from 1987 to 2020. So there was a ton of hype for Isaiah Simmons coming out, and I think there was an expectation that he was sort of that hybrid linebacker safety who could do it all. And when Simmons came into Green Bay, there was one interview where he was discussing with some Packers reporters, and it sounded like with him coming to Green Bay, it sounds like Jeff Hafley wants to focus him more at one position, being at linebacker, not necessarily basically stretch him too thin, trying to get him to learn every single thing. And it may be that allows him to find that success here in Green Bay, focusing more on one position. And that RAS stat was from ras.football on Twitter. And then here are a couple other tweets showing specific plays from the past couple of days. First off, from Andy Herman, who said a couple of days ago, Isaiah Simmons all over a Josh Jacobs screen. And then Ryan Wood says, necessary disclaimer, they're not wearing pads yet, but Isaiah Simmons flashed the speed that once made him a top 10 pick, closing on Josh Jacobs instantly to hold the Packers running back for a 2-yard gain on a quick screen. Awfully impressive athlete. And then Mike Spofford said today on Twitter, veteran linebacker Isaiah Simmons, who is getting base snaps on the strong side with Quay Walker not back yet, had an impressive first practice of Packers camp yesterday. His speed is evident in 11 on 11. And that is one reason Isaiah Simmons is getting some more looks with the number one defense, not offense, because Quay Walker is dealing with an injury. And so that's sort of the case sometimes when you have guys going down with injuries. That gives other guys opportunities to come in and play some solid football. And then here we have from Josh Jacobs yesterday on Isaiah Simmons. He said, first, he can run. He's kind of a unicorn at that position. We can put him on guys in the slot. He can cover guys. Really, I just can't wait to see him in pads. I want to see how physical he is. I've played against him a couple times, so I know what kind of player he is, but it's different when you see it on a day-to-day basis. And of course, it's still very early in training camp, and they're not in pads. And so I think for a lot of these things you see at training camp, sometimes it ends up, the season comes around and you see how the guy's playing and you're like, look, we saw that in training camp. He was making some noise. Not a surprise that he came in, started, playing some good football come the regular season. Then also, I think there are times where guys have really great training camps and then sort of are a little quiet during the regular season. So you don't really know, what's going to stick until, real football gets here. But it's at least promising that Simmons is already playing some solid football in the first couple of days of Packers training camp. And I was thinking back to Devondre Campbell, who came into Green Bay back in 2021. And at the time when he was signed, he had played for about 5 seasons with the Falcons and Cardinals. And he was only signed to a 1-year, $2 million deal. So very, very cheap. Clearly, the rest of the NFL did not view him as this top-tier linebacker. And then he has an all-pro season with the Packers. And so these aren't necessarily similar situations outside of two guys who are signed for relatively cheap deals at linebacker. But the Packers are good at finding value in guys who maybe for a few seasons haven't necessarily lived up to, getting top tier type money. And then they bring him into the Green Bay situation and the Green Bay culture, and things sort of turn around. And I think sometimes guys just need a new atmosphere, and maybe that's what this is going to be for Isaiah Simmons. I think best case scenario is he comes in and we sort of see why he was a top 10 pick, and maybe Jeff Hafley can figure out, the best way to utilize him, and hopefully we could see some of the best play of his career. And on the, worst case scenario, as I said, it's only a $1.3 million deal. And so it's not like there's a massive risk here. And if he doesn't pan out, that the Packers lose a ton just when it comes to, financially speaking, because let's say you brought him in for $15 million a year and he underperforms. That's where there's a little bit of a problem there. So it was a very, very cheap deal, and he should, at the minimum, be a very impactful special teams player. But if you'd like more Packers content, Packers news, feel free to subscribe down below. Turn on the post notifications so you don't miss any Packers news. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.